their presidents, their ministers, their country chairs, and their participants. Business education and entrepreneurship education have come a long way in the past 2 decades. The mindset of students of entrepreneurship has changed as well and will continue to evolve. More and more business organizations are adopting an entrepreneurial spirit. Even conservative businesses are making it a priority to boost their entrepreneurial energies and promote a culture of creativity and innovation. Most innovative business ideas come from young people. Current and future entrepreneurs and investors need specialized knowledge and a highly complex set of skills to move innovative ideas into the market and ensure they succeed. All this suggests that it is time for higher education institutions to take on a new role. They need to revisit their current business curricula and expand their offerings beyond the traditional concept of business education into a wider framework that bundles education, incubation, mentoring, technology transfer, and research and development. With this in mind, the stakeholders of the World Business Angel Investors Week have agreed on the theme for this year's week, which will now take place until 25th of June as global collaboration with higher education to increase financial inclusion. The week aims to contribute to the development of skills and expertise of students and faculty members alike, assist in the digital transformation of higher education institutions, and foster the kind of creative thinking that leads to innovation and eventual success in the ever-changing market environment of the 21st century. During this special week, all stakeholders and participants in the week's events will pause to reflect on their fast-paced journey, to analyze why business transformation is needed and how transformation will support entrepreneurship and innovation that will boost economies, and to reiterate how entrepreneurial ecosystems can create more jobs, more wealth, and for more social justice in cooperation with key players in early-stage equity markets in the post-pandemic economy. World Business Angel Investors Week 2023 will feature roundtables that will provide a platform for entrepreneurs, angel investors, and academicians to explore the processes startups will go through in post-pandemic times. The week will also include discussions on the ongoing challenges entrepreneurial ventures face in integrating the basic knowledge of strategic planning and will consider creative ways to overcome the challenges. I would like to thank in advance all the stakeholders and partners who will be contributing to the World Business Angel Investors Week 2023. They will be highlighting the importance of higher education to increase financial inclusion, the theme of this year's event. I believe to grow and thrive in a post-pandemic world, swift business transformation into a pandemic-proof organizational model is vital if we are to ensure the sustainability of world economies in the new normal. I would like to thank the organizing committee and the colleagues who will be taking roles as country chairs, global partners, keynote speakers, and panel discussion members. Their combined efforts will create value for the world startup economies, not only during this week, but in the future as well. They will focus on harnessing the collective knowledge of the world's most influential women leaders, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and artists, with a view to addressing critical issues of early-stage equity markets in the new normal. The week will also be a great platform from which to campaign for solutions to such critical issues and other worldwide concerns at the United Nations, the European, and in G20 countries. The ultimate goal of all of the week's keynotes, discussions, presentations, and workshops is to agree on a common roadmap for entrepreneurs, startups, and SMEs that will enable them to emerge from this pandemic period even stronger than they were before. We encourage all faculty members of higher education, angel investors, entrepreneurs, and policymakers to explore the merits of the World Business Angel Investors Week and take full advantage of its many benefits. I am confident that each participant in World Business Angel Investors Week will benefit from the collaborative ideas, know-how exchange, training programs, and workshops and global networking opportunities that are offered. I believe that by working together across borders with a common vision and smart dynamics in mind, we are well placed to bring about positive change in global economy. I also want to invite all of you to join the World Congress of Angel Investors 2023, which will be in Durban of South Africa next November. I'm wishing you great success in your future endeavors, and thank you very much for listening to me. All the best.
Mandela, like Gandhi before him, was an ardent believer in the equal rights and potential of people of all origins and backgrounds. His courage in the face of oppression stands as an example of the power of passion and perseverance to change the world. And I quote, "Peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is the creation of an environment where all can flourish, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, gender, class, or any other social markers of difference. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of a mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation. It's what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. It always seems impossible until it's done." End quote. Ladies and gentlemen, in memory of the beloved father of our democracy in South Africa, statesman, recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, recipient of more than 260 honorary awards and degrees from more than 50 international universities, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Dear Chairman, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Ministers, fellow country chairs of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, dignitaries, esteemed guests, and global participants. It's a huge honor and the first time that South Africa is represented in this prestigious global event. It is also the first time that the annual global conference of the World Business Angel Investment Forum will be held in South Africa during November this year, and we look forward to hosting you in our Rainbow Nation. I now hereby officially welcome you to the South African chapter of the World Business Angel Investors Week 2023.
Good day, my name is Mia Slabbert and I'm here to facilitate and to introduce South Africa to you. And if you might not know, South Africa's got its own magic and its own potential, and a major reason to be excited about South Africa is just this potential that lies within this beautiful country. So we are talking about the theme, and our theme today is global collaboration with higher education for financial inclusion. Now, the panel here with me, and we're going to learn a lot more about them in a few minutes, but just a quick introduction. Here on my left is Senator Philip J. Mostert, and like I say, we're going to introduce him now more fully. We've got Professor Maurice Radebe, and he is a well-known businessman and somebody that is making waves in the business industry. We've also got Mr. Martin Kaskas, and I think when it comes to the word credibility and the potential and the power of credibility, he is the right person to teach you a few things. And there on the far side, we've got Professor Alan Christoffels. Now, everybody's strong on their own field. I am quickly moving over to Senator Philip J. Mostert. You've got a wonderful CV, but a wonderful thing, you've got this quote you live by, and it's really amazing, is either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. And if you can just understand the power of that quote, he's got a magnificent CV, and I'm just going to focus on a few things. He is part of the World Business Angels Investment Forum, and his role there is really significant. Now, Senator, can I just put the ball in your hand? Introduce South Africa and this theme. Why is it such a wonderful fit?
Well, thank you, Mia. To start off with, the quote that you're referring to is Benjamin Franklin's quote, and yes, I live by that, and I absolutely believe that it's an important part of my life. With regards to the honor that's been bestowed on me to represent South Africa in the World Business Angel Investment Forum and part of the G20, it's all about how can we as South Africa step up to the plate?
Absolutely.
How can the world take notice, and how can we celebrate South African entrepreneurship? And it's time that the world needs to realize that Africa is the future. You know, there's a saying that we love, that the world may have invented the watch, but Africa owns the time. And
Yes.
The sooner that the world realizes the potential in Africa, predictions are that by 2050 we'll be the biggest continent in the world. Well, not just population-wise. The median age in Africa is 19 years old, so we have a young population that want to learn, that want to make a difference. And that's what we hear about today. How do we marry smart entrepreneurs with smart money? And how do we encourage the world to trust us? The world needs to take notice of South Africa.
Absolutely.
And as a senator in the World Business Angel Investment Forum, my responsibility is to collaborate with higher education, to collaborate with business people, and to collaborate with investors. And that is how we expect to grow our economy, by encouraging entrepreneurship. So we cannot wait for the governments to take action. They take too long. So we believe that the future of economies in the world will be driven by entrepreneurship. And that's why we're here today.
That's the truth. But Senator, when we put higher education and entrepreneurship together, it's such a magical fit, right?
Absolutely.
You agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we are, I think when we look at our keynote speakers here, now I'm gonna really give you time to introduce yourself, because I really believe nobody else can speak bigger and higher about yourself than you. So Professor Radebe, just give us a quick summary of what's special about your achievements for you.
Thank you very much, Mia. It's a wonderful opportunity to be part of this panel discussion. Well, the thing to me, why I'm actually here, is because it resonates very deeply in my own personal life. my grandfather started a little shop in the township of Katlehong, which is the eastern part of Johannesburg. Poor, but the entrepreneurial spirit that was in him helped him to start that business, grew it, and through that business, he was able to lift the entire Khadebe clan out of poverty. One man was entrepreneurial. So as a result of that, he gave us good education, and we were able to also become business leaders in our own right. So yes, I think we need to understand that entrepreneurs, and I agree with Mr. Mostert there, that entrepreneurs make a difference. And my background then, as a result of that, I studied obviously a science degree first, and then I ended up doing an MBA at Wits Business School, and I went into corporate life, particularly in the energy sector. I worked for a big major multinational for the first 7 years, and I learned what it is to do now bigger business.
I love that phrase, bigger business. Yeah.
And I'll come to that because education is important in that. And then after that I was inspired, together with the team, we started a new company in the oil industry, black owned, black controlled. It was called Excel Petroleum at that time. And it was just an amazing work that we just did. That was the best part of my career. Because we started something from scratch and built it. Over a 7 years period, we had developed retail network, basically service stations, just under 200 of them. And then Sasol, which is one of the giant organizations in South Africa, Sasol Oil in particular, who is a subsidiary of the group, bought us. And I thought, well, being a CEO of Excel Petroleum, being acquired by a big company, normally, you know, business school case studies tell us that the CEO of an acquired company gets bulleted.
Yes.
Yeah, I was, blessed in a way that Sasol Oil said, no, we want you in. And to run First Excel as a division of Sasol Oil. And within a short space of time, I ended up running Sasol Oil. So the company that acquired us, I ended up running it, which is a massive organization within the Sasol stable.
International organization.
Absolutely. And as an MD of Sasol Oil, and I grew within the enterprise, and I ended up actually running the whole energy business of Sasol. Sasol has got really two big businesses, chemicals and energy. So I became the global leader as an executive vice president energy business. That's my corporate life. And then when I finished my corporate life and I took a little bit of a retirement, and I went home, and within 3 months my wife chased me out of and said, listen, there can't be two bosses. I'm the boss here, you've been away for 10 years. And then asked for mentors and friends, they said, find something else to do. Thank God I was very passionate about education, so that's business school, which I've been always associated with, because I helped start the Energy Leadership Center there. Invited me to come and help run the business school, so that's where I am now. 2.5 years here, I've been running the Vets Business School, we've been turning it around, and have a vision for it to rank amongst the best in the world. That's what I'm doing now.
And obviously, we are talking about, if you take the theme higher education, and it's not just higher education, it's that global collaboration, the role that higher education plays. And I sometimes feel you can't exclude higher education and the valuable role that entrepreneurship plays in the economy. You can't exclude them. You're either a business person and you've got your corporate life, or you're an entrepreneur where you decide, I'm gonna make the lead. I'm gonna let people follow me. I'm just gonna set the pace. So in the business world in South Africa, and if we look at that global collaboration with higher education, obviously there's got to be a platform for everybody. How do you think we perform in South Africa on that theme?
I think we are realizing that this is the most important part. In the
Absolutely.
past, we tended to have a kind of, you either, get a degree, and then you get a job, and then, focus on your career, and then at the end you retire. Or you become a business person, normally at a younger age, and you don't get into higher education. What we need to do now is literally ensuring that we create, and as I say in my business school, that when you go through our MBA program or any of our master's program, there's two outcomes that you're going to have. At the end of that, when you graduate and you go through that stage, at the end there you must either have a job or be able to create your own job.
There we go.
That's really the essence of our education. And if we do that, we will be able to unlock a lot of potential and talent. But also, if we look at higher education, and I was speaking to Professor Allen here, who's in the science field, and part of my role now as a business school leader is to go back to Department of Science and Technology and Innovation and all this, and look at all the wonderful innovation the scientists are developing, and my job is to say, how do we commercialize this and make it into a business that will create jobs and grow the economy? Because what we're seeing is that our best talented scientists and technology people, the only way they have to be able to commercialize their stuff is to go to the US. And then there they get able to commercialize their stuff, and there's venture capitalists there, and that helps them. So we have to have this collaboration. And I must say that most of the in my institution, we've got a Department of Innovation. We actually have the whole business school that is focusing on venture creation and small and medium enterprises at a high level, but also we're busy right now setting up an incubation hub for young students, for small and medium enterprises, because we need all the levels of entrepreneurship, small, medium, and then large, and then global organizations. And I've been privileged in my life to play in all these roles, so I can understand all of them and participate in that.
That's really amazing. Senator Mostert, I just want to pick your brain here. Where do you think the entrepreneur fits in this equation? Or where should he fit in more?
I think I have to answer that reflecting back on my life as an entrepreneur. The CEO of Fire Capital, which you'll meet later on, AJ Wasserman said that when him and I joined forces, the reason he wants grey hair is because he don't want to make the same mistakes that I made. Yeah. So I've made several mistakes and in life, and the younger people, the millennials like AJ, say, listen, we don't want to make the same mistakes as you guys. So in terms of entrepreneurs, I think what's important, and especially with the discussion today at large, is the importance of educating. You know, education plays an important role, because the alternative is you're going to burn your fingers and learn the hard way. Clever people learn from other people's mistakes, and people like myself learn from my own mistakes. You know, my wife always said, you know, I always tell my wife, don't worry, we'll write it down to experience. And then my wife came back and said, I think we got enough experience, stop making mistakes. But it's the importance of higher education, collaboration with the world and with entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurs play a very vital role in terms of growing any economy. Without entrepreneurs, there won't be an economy. And higher education's role, in my opinion, is to help educate entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs, by definition, people think, well, entrepreneurs are people that sell something. It's not necessarily the case. It can also be services. It's a medical practitioner is an entrepreneur. He starts his own business eventually, but does he know how to run a business? He knows how to help you as a doctor, but he may not have the experience how to run a business. So marrying higher education with entrepreneurs, with business people, creating a vibrant economy. That's what it's all about.
And Mr. Martin Kaskas, you are the author of just one of the most amazing books, Credibility Matters. And that's just one of your titles that you wear and you carry. Before you introduce yourself, you start your book off by saying, there's this saying that it takes a village to raise a child. But who raises the village? And that is so powerful. I think when we look at this, we all play a role in the economy, and we all we want to make our stamp, and we want to make our voices heard. But what comes across from you, and it's something that I've actually learned from you, is that power of credibility. So if you can quickly introduce yourself and just why the focus on credibility, credibility in business, credibility in higher education, why is that your focus?
Thank you, Mia, and thank you the rest of the panelists here today. I really value the opportunity to exchange some notes on a very important and a very critical issue that we're confronting with here in South Africa, and that's the development of entrepreneurs. Now, I didn't start off as an entrepreneur. Before you fall off your chairs, I was a nurse for 17 years, okay? And I spent 17 years in the nursing profession. And then I had to reinvent myself. In 1994, I became a politician. I was the first MEC of Finance in the Northwest Provincial Government. I didn't know a debit from a credit, okay? And here I'm called upon to manage 5.2 billion rand.
Wow.
I had to learn pretty quickly, And I couldn't blame apartheid indefinitely. Say, comrades, I was disadvantaged and so on. I had to go to the London schools of economics, spend in the cold winters of December there in London, to the Harvards of this world and so on, and equip myself to understand the language of money. During that time, I got very closer to the entrepreneurial space because one of my portfolios was also economic affairs. I was more on the policy side and creating that enabling environment for entrepreneurs to thrive. And what was quite interesting there, is to just see the guts where people take risks and, notwithstanding all the constraints and so on, still was able to rise above these challenges and create viable enterprises. Cut a long story short, I came to my next destination was the South African Bureau of Standards. There I worked also quite a lot about 15,000 clients in the business world, from big car manufacturers, mining houses, and it was always nice to go down to Cape Town, Professor Allen, to sit with the wine farmers there. But there was a massive paradigm shift there because the South African Bureau of Standards, 82% was around commercial, all those laboratories and so on. Whereas where I came from, I got the money from National Treasury. Now I had to create my own money here. And that got me closer to the entrepreneurial space and to see how you drive down costs, you increase your profitability and efficiencies and those sort of things. Also got involved in quite a few corporates at board level, where I was more now on the governance side of things, and also started some of my own enterprises. But coming back to your question, why am I so passionate about the subject of credibility? To say that we're having a crisis in the world will be an understatement. It's actually more than a crisis. We've got a crisis of credible leadership. In all spheres of society, whether you're speaking business, you're speaking government, you're speaking sports, the arts, everywhere, there's just too many instances of trust that's been betrayed, values that are abandoned, expedient stuff happening there, where it does not inspire confidence in people. Because what people sometimes say on the one side and what they do on the other side is at variance with each other. And especially, Philip said earlier on, they want to know the jockey. the jockey must be trusted. Now, entrepreneurship, people will like you. They will have coffee with you at coffee shops and so on. They will only do business with you when they trust you. And their trust is earned. And therefore, you need to live your life with a high degree of credibility. You need to be a person that can be believed, respected, trusted. And you know, the way you conduct yourself in one setting should also not be at variance when you're in another setting. If your name comes up in other quarters, there should be a similar storyline that flows through. And by so doing, building that credibility, that's how you get attracted, that's how you get noticed. Because people have got options nowadays, you know. Why should I do business with Philip? There's hundreds and thousands of other entrepreneurs, but they go look for that rare quality. Is this guy credible? Can he be trusted? What he puts on those spreadsheets, is he believable? Can he execute on those plans? And that's why you know, I'm doing a lot of work just amongst business leaders, just to inculcate that culture again, where we go back. You spoke earlier on, it takes a village to raise a child. And the question is, who raises this village? Who are the people that shape the thinking, the behavior, you know, the values of that? And we desperately need of a different value system in our business environment. And you know, business schools and the different educational departments and so on, that should also be a primary focus. It's not just about money for money's sake. Business for business sake is also how do we transform societies through our entrepreneurial endeavors.
Now, Professor Alan Christoffels, you are in the science field, and you can't, the health of a country is almost equal to the health of the economy. A healthy country is a healthy economy. So just a quick introduction from your side, and how do you interpret, you know, the power of that collaboration with higher education for financial inclusivity?
Thanks very much, Mia. You know, and I think as I sit at the end of this row, in the sciences, we have to bring that closer to that side. But I think, you know, if I just look at what higher education means to our population right now, I think we mustn't forget, and let's get back to reality, the number of first generation graduates. That is the people one is trying to shape. And understanding the transforming power of education, at all levels, be it entrepreneurship, be it just in growing skill sets, that is going to uplift communities, that is going to strengthen us. And I think for me that has been key. And even now, 2023, I walk into a class of undergraduate students, and to this day, the proportion of students who has entered university for the first time in their households, imagine the opportunity we have in shaping what happens to such an individual. And we have the capability of opening up opportunities. And when it comes down to it is, how are we inculcating an environment and enabling one of possibilities? And that's what we want in our people. And I think there's enough of that going around. My own background is sitting at the interface of biology, computer science, and mathematics. And that schizophrenic behavior, as it were, is really at the level where you get new ideas, where you get new products, new innovations coming. And I think as if we can expose young people to these options, and recognizing that if we are developing a skilled workforce, that is going to penetrate communities, it's going to scale up to society, it's going to scale up to populations. And I think if we actually have that in mind, I think we have quite a long way where we can go in really changing lives. And to your question, the role of collaboration. You know, the pandemic has taught us many things.
Absolutely.
I mean, the first one that was painful is that there is a human face behind it all. Right? And the collaboration, what we have to offer as South Africans. We are pushing the boundaries forward, and how do we bring those innovations into the same conversations as those that are sitting within industry? And so then collectively, we are then going to change. Because at the end of the day, what I do is probably less as important as what I have that can actually impact your policymakers, those that needs to define the frameworks in which we work. And so for me, I think the collaborative nature of that is what we've seen, and I'm sure we can go through a number of examples of where we have seen really practical and tangible examples of how that is playing itself out now.
And that's what I want to ask now. What are we doing right? Because we are here to celebrate South Africa. We are obviously we're doing things right. And I'm not saying every country or any country is perfect, but we can feel almost the rumble. We can feel something happening, something coming. So according to you, what are we doing right to make sure that the role that higher education plays, we all want financial inclusivity. Everybody wants to stand a chance, right? Just for something.
Absolutely.
Isn't that true?
Absolutely. I mean, let us just, which country has told the world about the variants that we are exposed to in terms of SARS-CoV-2? South Africa and Botswana. We let the world know that they need to be on the lookout for what is there. And that comes of talented folks within the university system.
Yes.
And that speaks to the capabilities we have to impact vaccine production. We have a capability to catalyze an industry that needs to grow even faster. Right? And so I think we as South Africans can truly celebrate the fact that people believe in us, people trust us. We heard about are we credible? And if we are using data to drive our decision making, that must count for a lot. We're seeing it in some of the work that I'm doing, leading a global project that is currently has a presence on every continent.
Sure.
And we are saying we are driving the need to build standards that can entice the world to say that this is the best practices that we have to follow if we are going to respond to diseases. And a very interesting fact, which I think people tend to forget, and we have had a lot of focus on COVID-19. As a continent, annually, we are dealing with in excess of 100 disease outbreaks. We have channeled the world's resources to COVID-19. Imagine what we have as potential if we start to channel our resources to those other 100 disease outbreaks that we are not focusing on. We have the capabilities. We have it on the continent. More specifically, we have it in the country. So how do we then strengthen our country? And diseases knows no borders. The fact that you're on this side of the border does not protect you.
Absolutely.
And so we have the capability in order to reinforce, to strengthen what we do. And this, I believe, is an opportunity where both industry and academia needs to meet. Because if we're going to scale this, if we're going to scale it to the kind of numbers that my colleagues are talking about, a continent with 1 billion people, if we're going to scale it to create opportunities for a young generation, that has to come from the kind of discussions that we have both within the universities, and between universities and the private sector.
Mia, just before you carry on, our international guests might wonder why I chose somebody like Professor Allen from the medical field and the science field. How does that in entrepreneurship come in? But as Alan rightfully says, and the world at large knows this, that COVID-19 created a global lockdown.
Yes.
Entire economies came to a standstill. Universities were empty. Higher education by a simple virus. So in terms of the importance of healthcare and public healthcare, which Alan them promote globally, and I think is as important a part of education.
Absolutely.
Is the healthy, without a healthy community, you can't have a healthy economy.
And Professor Radebe, I think something that stands out, and that's such a truth, is obviously when it comes to higher education, it's wonderful to have a degree or to have an MBA and to have a, to stand and you've achieved it. But you can't take away from the fact that a person with a drive, with an entrepreneurial spirit, you can't separate them and say, oh, this one's going to achieve more and this one's not going to be. That's not the truth, eh? So obviously when it comes to our higher education system and even how our universities here in South Africa, we collaborate. There's programs, it's really amazing to see how it goes. But don't cut the entrepreneur short, and do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. I want to come back to the question of what is it that we are doing well and showcasing in South Africa? Because I want to first dispel this narrative that we're going to be a failed state. I don't believe that.
Me too.
We're going to be a great state.
Yes.
We're just going through another phase of crisis.
Yes.
And we're going to come out very, very successful. And I'll come back to your question. But if you look in the energy space where I am, the innovation that has come out of South Africa is amazing. Before coal was declared a demon now because of CO2 emissions, but the best technology to convert coal, which is a very low value product, and beneficiate it through a CTL, through a coal to liquid technology was perfected here in South Africa.
Homegrown.
Homegrown through one organization called Sasol to produce out of coal gas, produce liquid fuels, which is petrol, diesel, chemicals. And then later on, out of South Africa, we took gas and we converted into petrol, diesel, waxes and everything. And we became a global player. A South African company became a global player operating in many countries.
Listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
Listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And now it's leading the whole the hydrogen technology that is being, because we've always been producing hydrogen.
Yeah.
Now hydrogen is a new thing, huh? But Sasol has been producing what we call brown hydrogen because it came out of coal. But we're now looking at how we can actually produce green hydrogen. Big projects happening in Pugabai, big projects, and what we've been given here, it's amazing the natural resources we have. The solar and the wind, we just have it in abundance. And let me tell you, there's what you don't know, there's wave that we have along the coastal line. It's a natural battery storage.
Yeah.
And there's technologies that are being developed in this country and in collaboration with European in order to really unlock the wave energy to help solve this energy crisis we're facing. So when we're facing an energy crisis, there's two types of people, as I say. There are those who complain and moan and criticize, that's fine. But there are those, some of us in the higher education will say, what opportunities do we have? What innovation are we going to have? Do we create fuelless generators, for instance? What other innovation can we have to actually make sure? How do you reduce sulfur content out of us? So there's amazing innovation that is happening. In fact, my purpose in life now is to write case studies of South African stories and successful businesses. And I've instructed all my MBA and PhD students, please, when you do your research, write a case study that is a South African.
Yes.
I don't want my grandchildren to be still reading stories from Europe and Western world.
It's right here.
Right here. The empty ends of this world started here.
We've had enough of Shakespeare.
Please go ahead.
No, and I actually just want to point to the fact that if you haven't picked up on the theme that we are discussing, it's more than the collaboration. It's about, this is South Africa.
Yes.
This is us, and this is our, and if there were ever reason to celebrate us, this is the reason, what we're achieving. And I want you to answer the part of, you know, the leadership, what are we doing right, and also just the role, that financial inclusivity. We are doing it right. We are making waves in that field.
Absolutely. And I'll speak about leadership because I think we need to define leadership. We've narrowly defined leadership. In fact, I would like to say this quite strongly. We've defined politicians as leaders. And I think we need to redefine that. Because frankly speaking, politicians are not, sorry about that. but a politician has got a 5-year horizon.
Yes.
The next elections. A leader is generational.
Absolutely.
You know, it's almost for somebody use the word cathedral. Because you know when they were building those big cathedrals, they are 500 years old. They were built by different generations, and I think we need to really focus on developing leaders in all our sectors of our communities.
You're right.
And if you look at what causes us to look as if we're a negative country, is only the political space, mainly the political space, and we need to make sure that we develop leaders in all aspects of our, and celebrate those ones. And those tend to be entrepreneurs. And not only entrepreneurs as business entrepreneurs, but social entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest things I'm trying to push now. Social entrepreneurs who will start a early learning center because he's solving a problem. A social entrepreneur will look at young people who are loitering in the street and start an organization that will save them from drugs, and social entrepreneur that will start an initiative in every aspect. And we're running a leadership foundation, and I'm amazed about social entrepreneurs that are there. And every business, and I always say, if you start a business, what problem are you solving? You know? Don't start a business because, hey, I saw my friend there, Cas is doing well. It's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
But what problem are you solving?
Exactly. And that's the big thing. It's got to be a solution to something.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And when you have a business that is solving a problem, that business is going to be sustainable, and it's going to be, you're going to be doing good, and then you're going to go do well and make money out of it. But it's tend to be vice versa when we tend to just look for money.
It's such a simple way of thinking, but it's so true. Mr. Kaskas, I really want to ask you, you are an acclaimed leadership coach as well. So if we look at the personality trait, the potential of leadership in South Africa, to achieve a lot of things, to achieve safety, to achieve economic health, to achieve, what are those characteristics that just makes a leader a leader? You might be a leader as an entrepreneur or somebody with an MBA or so. What are you looking for? What are those?
First, there are 4 C's that I look at. The one is competence. You know, it's so disheartening to work with people who are incompetent. You know, then they come with all manner of defense mechanisms and so on, and they stifle innovation and creativity and so on because they themselves are insecure. And therefore, you want to lead, you've got to read. Okay. Second thing that I look for is character. You know, we can all play very well around a business plan, but once the money comes onto the table, the real ugliness of humanity comes to the fore. And I think sometimes we don't do sufficient due diligence on the people that we bring into the leadership fold.
Absolutely.
And you know, the flaws start to show, the cracks start to show, and then we start regretting. If only. It's too late that time.
Credibility matters.
It's too late. The third thing that I'm looking for is a thing called courage. Show me your scars. I don't want to be involved with people that shot the lights out on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in the good times. I want to work with people when that business was down in the doldrums. How did they pick it up again? and brought it back to a level of profitability, high levels of output, and so on. It takes courage to be a leader also, not only in business, in all spheres of society, to stand for your convictions and make it a lifestyle. But lastly, what I look for in a leader is chemistry. There's the chemistry here. I'm talking of do we have a shared value system?
Yeah.
Because values are those non-negotiables that will calibrate all our endeavors as we move forward. And if we don't do that, to establish the right chemistry, people come to you and you walk away, I actually like that guy now. That's not the criteria for choosing leadership. It's not about likability. It's about chemistry. Can we sit around the table and are you respectful to different views? Are you accommodative of other people's opinions, or are you having the final say? And if that is not there, then as a leader, I'm sure we're not going to go too far with you. Very soon you're going to remind us who is the boss.
Yeah.
And there will be a sense of grudging compliance, but things are not going to move forward.
Yeah.
Just to add, excuse me, Mia, just to add to what Martin just said, he reminded me when he said, show me the scars.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, I had the privilege of meeting a previous statesman of Zambia, and he was the youngest minister of foreign affairs in Zambia at the time, Vijay Mwanga, Advocate Vernon Mwanga. And he wrote a book called An Exile's Diary. And I was telling him, as an entrepreneur and leader of my business, how many mistakes I made, even while I was young, and burnt my fingers. And he turned around to me and he said, give me back the book. I want to write you something. And in that book he wrote, Dear Philip, a man without a past cannot be held as a reliable guide to the future.
There we
Sure.
go.
Powerful.
And I think that's part of the scars.
Yeah.
We as a country have some scars, or many scars, but coming from the past, we use that, what we've learned, to guide the next generation, the millennials, our children, our grandchildren, to guide them into the future.
Absolutely.
If we didn't have the past, we won't have the experience.
Just want to speak very important thing that you said about integrity to me is number one.
Absolutely.
And I use this expression all the time that says, talent, which is competence, will take you to the top,
Yes.
but character will keep you.
There we
Yeah,
go.
absolutely.
And I've seen too many people in business, smart, talented business person, rising up to the top, but the character flaws and lack of integrity brings them down, tumbling like a ton of bricks.
And to bring it back also again, a simple explanation of character and integrity is that who are you when nobody's looking, right?
Correct.
Who are you when nobody's looking? That's what it says. Yes.
Yeah, and I think maybe just to push even this idea of what constitutes that leader, being somebody who can allow people's voices to be heard. But people tend to, you must follow my line.
Absolutely.
That is not the way we're going to bring about the changes we need. And so even within my team, it's very clear, I don't employ somebody to do what I say you must do. You come with your view, and the view that is then run with is the one actually just runs with it. Because we all are here to contribute. And I think unless we can do that and allow people the spaces for their voices to be heard, and because there are a range of ideas, we recruited somebody to our team, and we're in a team of bioinformatics people, a person with a psychology degree. And I asked her to come and see me. Why on earth do you want a psychology person in your team? But let me tell you the value add of somebody who comes with a completely different perspective. Yeah. Completely different. And starts to see a human face to what we're doing. starts to engage communities and start to bring what we do closer to the public. And I think that for me is that if we are going to identify leaders, who are those people that will allow that to start to be nurtured? You know, allow that to come forth. Because what you don't want is another replica of Alan or Philip or Martin.
Oh, yeah,
We've seen
that's
too much
true.
of us.
Professor Gadebe, I think the question, we are doing a lot, but we can always, what can South Africa do more to increase this collaboration between government, higher education, and
International money.
absolutely, yeah, to create a sustainable platform, a safety for entrepreneurship in South Africa, people who dare to break the boundaries because they can.
I think what we need to do more is to create an ecosystem for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. Currently, what we have is bravery, courage, sometimes naivety. When I started Excel, I really said, you know, when we were sitting yesterday, I was sitting with a friend of mine when we started. They said, we're brave, we're courageous, we're passionate, but we're a little bit naive. And that helped us to go through a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what we need now is to create an ecosystem that ensures that a new entrepreneur comes in and the issue of basically understanding the product itself, there's people who assist the entrepreneur, because they're entrepreneurs. And then there's issue of funding. There must be an ecosystem of funding. There must be also an ecosystem that helps open new markets. There must be all ecosystem that ensures that the regulatory framework and the bureaucracy is as easy as possible. Ecosystem to ensure that cross-border trade is happening, because when you start a business in South Africa, you're talking about 60 million people, but maybe only 15 of those are real middle class that can buy. But if you open up the whole ecosystem that looks at that's why I love the African trade agreement that we have, to ensure that we harmonize tariffs, we harmonize cross-border situations. That is why, for instance, in America, when somebody starts, he's already thinking about 300 million people.
In Southern Africa.
Even in Southern Africa, that's what we can do.
Yeah.
But so the ecosystem that harmonizes the regulatory framework, harmonizes the financial systems, harmonize everything, so that, and we create these hubs, just like the Silicon Valleys, which focused on a different tech sector. So what we need to do in South Africa and is to really choose sectors and then say, okay, we're going to create a whole ecosystem around that, so that any entrepreneur that enter that sector will be able, connectivity, hi-fi, linking up, linkages with markets and all that. That is what we need to do now. Because we've got enough entrepreneurs, but they're fighting on their own steam. And then they run out of that steam and they get frustrated. But that support system is what we need to do.
Professor Christoffels, I just want to ask you, do you think there are enough affordable options for scholars in South Africa when it comes to higher education, when it comes to options there are? What's your opinion on that?
You know, I think that we could probably all say there needs to be more.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, one thing that struck me, and I give an example, a couple of months back now, we were talking about how do you just create awareness of having to just do the enrollment at university. So even going further back than going to entrepreneurs. And realizing that young people are not even aware of how to, right?
Yes.
We are saying, go log in, go to the internet.
Yeah, go Google.
Just not knowing how
Yes.
to. And so back to your question, do we have sufficient? And I think we need to be having the appropriate spaces where we are in fact showing young people. You know, we have a Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of the Western Cape. How do we take that to the community?
Yes.
And as I think one of you was saying, that the entrepreneurs are in the community,
They are.
right? It is the simple ideas that is changing the world. And so how do we show young people that there are the opportunities, there are the financial resources to support them, and then coming alongside them. And so I think we don't do enough of that. As a scientist, I'm constantly challenged with how do I create that, and you talk about the ecosystem, how do I create that environment that is going to say there's a talented graduate student there. Everybody doesn't have to be the boring scientist. How do we create the spaces where people could have a way to catapult them to something that they can do that can actually contribute effectively to society?
In your experience, you've obviously dealt with a lot of people and a lot of different personalities, good or bad. When it comes to somebody who takes responsibility for their role that they've got to play in their country, in their household, in their community, what are some of the characteristics that you've seen that can be a problem or can be, that can be a problem? And who do you think should be the people, should it be government, should it be community leaders, to take these people and say, okay, you're doing stuff wrong, let's get you on the right track? For financial inclusivity, for somebody to achieve something for himself.
Yeah, Mia, it's a loaded question because, we come from a society that was so fragmented in the past. Yes. And up till now, I don't think we've succeeded to define for ourselves a common vision that everybody will aspire to. And somebody that can articulate it in such a way that we follow that line of march and we know this is the direction. We've got structures like NEDLEC, for example. They've been battling for years just to get a social compact going so that there can be an agreement between business, labor, and civil society. And the days where there's sometimes just so much conspiracy going on,
Yes.
Labor doesn't trust business. Business feels now labor is squeezing us and driving up our costs. Civil society, now these guys just want to make profits out of us and so on. And unless we get to that stage where we have a common shared vision and somebody that will become an embodiment of that as well, drive it all at all levels. So if these differences comes and people veer off, then we can point them back. This is what we've agreed upon.
Yes.
This is the roadmap that we've set for ourselves. You're out of line now, let's get back. And how do we get you back? And then it doesn't need to be reactive. It's actually developmental so that, and it's the question of, am I my brother's keeper? No. We've agreed on this. Get out of this thing because it's going to take us backwards. This is the direction we want to follow. Getting a common vision. Most organizations that thrive, I worked with one iconic gentleman, he's late now, Maya Khan. Now, I don't want to glorify BA, but he built this big conglomerate, South African breweries, which become a world there. And he had this one mantra. When he walks into any operation of the breweries, he wants to know what were the sales numbers for yesterday. That's all he's interested in. Yeah. What were the sales numbers for yesterday? And every day, that is the thing that drives them. How can we get that stuff out there? Because we're going to have the best facilities. So even the one that sweeps here knows, as she sweeps, I must be on that board. Yes. What were the sales numbers for yesterday?
And South African breweries is, I think, one of the second largest breweries in the world.
Yeah. Because
ABV.
As I sweep here, I contribute towards the sales numbers out there.
It's a common value. It's very. I hear you.
But I think maybe just to add to the shared vision, and I don't know how many people internationally realize it, is that during these last 2 years, and so I work as the advisor to the Africa Center for Disease Control, the last 2 years, getting a shared vision for the African continent among 55 countries as to how to manage disease outbreak data. That was achieved. And South Africa's leading a role in shaping the technology platform that will drive that.
Yes.
And I think if the world realizes that we are all looking for solutions globally, we have the same problems really. And those solutions are being developed right here. And we have what it takes to provide the examples which people can actually try and repeat and to their advantage within their own context. I think that's important.
Yeah, as I'm listening to Professor Alan, is that what we also can do better is to really tell our stories.
Absolutely.
Loud and using every platform, every channels that in which we can. Because that's where, I mean, such wonderful stories that you talk about. Well, each one can have a story, but we don't tell it.
No.
You know, we must do and tell. And that's really the area of improvement. That's why I'm glad that we have this session.
Absolutely. And you know what's most important is we've got to be the narrators of our own story.
Yes.
Don't let other people tell the story of South Africa. We hear, we feel it, we live it. And it's definitely a reason to celebrate. I truly, truly, truly want to thank you guys, gentlemen, for coming in and just being part of this discussion. The value and the purpose of this it's enormous. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the second segment of this wonderful discussion. We are now focusing on, according to me, probably the most important aspect of business, and it's those entrepreneurs, the role that entrepreneurship plays in economy, in a country, a thriving country. So we're going to have a second panel discussion, and just a quick introduction. We've got Senator Philip J. Mostert here with me. We've got Christine Breet, and she is a corporate communications specialist, and she's also a woman in business. So that's quite the conversation we're going to dig into. We've also got Mr. AJ Wasserman. Now, I'm going to let him introduce himself, but let me just say, when it comes to entrepreneurship, he's the one you want to talk to, and just to hear how his journey looked like. And then we've got Mr. Michael Bridger. Now, he is a seasoned business specialist at the University of Stellenbosch Business School, and he was affiliated with Walmart. So we are going to just hear what role entrepreneurship played in their lives. So, Philip, I just want to start with you. We put the focus now on entrepreneurship. We are in South Africa. We know, and we've heard in the previous section, the thriving, healthy economy we do have. According to you, what role does entrepreneurship play?
Well, Mia, in the World Business Angel Investment Forum, it's all about entrepreneurship. It's about empowering entrepreneurs to create job opportunities, which is the only way to grow economy. And as we say in the World Business Angel Investment Forum, it's all about marrying smart money with smart entrepreneurs.
I love that saying. I really do.
And that's what this is all about. You know, the WEAF is a global organization. We're represented in 132 plus countries globally. Thousands and thousands of investors part of the WEAF, and they're all looking for the magic. and the entrepreneurs make the magic. You know, so there won't be a term like a unicorn or a decacorn if it wasn't for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They are the hub of the economy, and we've heard in our previous section it's all about higher education. But now we've been educated, and now what? Now it's about growing the economy. It's about taking what we've learned and applying that in practice. And that's where the entrepreneurship comes in. That's how we grow economies. That's how the world goes around.
Absolutely.
It's all about entrepreneurs, celebrating entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And in context, this is South Africa, and it's our first rodeo with the WBAF, which we're extremely proud of.
Yes.
Being given the opportunity by our global chairman, Mr. Baybars Altuntas, who's a celebrated entrepreneur himself. And this is our opportunity to showcase South Africa and the power that we have in entrepreneurship as a country. And Southern Africa is a vibrant area, and yeah, we're looking forward to this section. And I'm also happy to make a statement that AJ, as a celebrated entrepreneur himself, is also now an international partner with the World Business Angel Investment Forum. So congratulations, AJ.
Thanks for that.
And the wonderful thing is, like I mentioned, is it takes a certain personality with guts to become an entrepreneur worldwide, but especially here in South Africa. So I salute everybody who says, I'm going to do my own thing. Christine, I want to just quickly, before we get into our discussions, you are a communication specialist, but most importantly, you are a woman in business. You are a thriving woman in business. Give us a quick summary of just why and how do you do it?
Lots of prayer. I think that is the first answer, and it takes courage. I think it's the question of getting up every day thinking, what is exciting, what is new, and then just putting your head down and doing it. I think we need to understand that some entrepreneurs are passionate and they're like Energizer bunnies. It's like going the whole time, new ideas and fun stuff. And then you get an entrepreneur, and I think I'm in the sort of latter category where I sit, I put my head down, I work, but I make good financial decisions.
Yes.
And that's how I grow. And I surround myself with people that are more knowledgeable than I am. And that's where you're going to find ideas. And then at the end of the day, you look back and say, okay, I did that. Great, so what are we going to do tomorrow?
Yes.
And I think that is the only way. You can never run out of ideas, and you can never run out of dreams.
That's what makes it so exciting. And AJ, I think you will agree with me. When we start talking about entrepreneurship, you can't distract it out of the South African context, because we've spoken about this. It takes a leader, it takes somebody with guts to start something new and like almost set a new path. And that we can do pretty well right here in South Africa. Do you agree?
100%. I think as South Africans, and being so multicultural in our country, with many different cultures and languages and races, and the Rainbow Nation, as Mandela used to say, we have to be very resilient in the South African market with dealing with those multicultural communities and entrepreneurs, and how those entrepreneurs launch ecosystems of financial inclusivity. It's very important for the South African economy, and 98% of the economy globally, in fact, is run by SMMEs, and those are the important guys that make the difference. And with South Africa being one of the top 3 GDPs with 400 billion US dollar GDP, I think we've got a very big role to play in South Africa in the entrepreneurship space.
Michael, we're going to get to you just now. AJ, I just quickly want to hear from you. I don't think a lot of people realize or know your journey into entrepreneurship. And it's your story, but I also think there's a massive bag of inspiration that comes with it. So if you can just sum up for us.
I'll try and keep it as short as possible. as a young entrepreneur myself, I wasn't necessarily privileged enough to go through the journey of education and higher education and university. After leaving school at end of standard 7, which is grade 9, at the age of 15, working full time, it was a learning curve in swimming in the deep end of life. And that practical experience of working with people and engaging with communities and having lunch with my team members as an electrician in the low income market, and being able to experience that culture that we have, and the lack of financial and life practical education, in the sense that you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And that's the biggest threat for these entrepreneurs, is they don't know any better. So having to surround yourself with the grey guys, and and that's a lesson that I've learned in my entrepreneurship journey from a very young age, is that, and that's something that the millennials and the youth can take away from this discussion as well, is that challenge their methods, but listen very carefully to what they've done.
Absolutely.
Because we can learn so much from entrepreneurs that has done it already, and I think that is something we need to always take to heart. And I'm very excited about the South African economy and what it can achieve, as well as what we can do with the entrepreneurial spirit in this country. And my journey from at the age of 15, I'm still privileged to be still very young, at 30. So it's only been 15 years now, but I've learned tons of lessons in 15 years, and I'm hoping to carry the flag beyond the next generation of entrepreneurial ecosystems.
Well, AJ, you are the CEO and founder of Fire Capital, so I think you're doing pretty amazing. You are right on your journey. Mr. Michael Bridger, business, and I think when it comes to business in South Africa, like I said, you can't distract, or you can't take out entrepreneurship. So just a quick introduction from your side, but also, what does the entrepreneurial landscape of South Africa look like?
So, I think I'm going to start off, I was in, I think, grade 1 or standard 1.
Let's go way back.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I managed to buy some Oros and a few packets of little chips and some sweeties, and I put it on the pavement, and people walking past would come, and I managed to work out how much this was, and I started my first little shop on the pavement and sold to the people walking past, be it whoever it was. I mean, those days not many people had cars, so everyone would walk home from work and that.
They'll have time.
But I found there was a problem, because I really enjoyed the sweets and chips, so what was ever left over I ate up, and and then I'd have to start all over again. So it's just gives you a bit, and I ended up in the retail game, probably with a company called Grand Bazaars many years ago, and they were bought out by the ShopRite group of companies. ShopRite then had 8 stores. There was Whitey Besson, and I stayed with them for about 20 years odd, and then moved over to Massmart, Walmart, and understanding that they a great mover of goods. And then I said to myself, well, okay, how do I, well, during that time, we went through a property search. So, a group of us got together and we shared some money, and we bought one flat together, and then we bought another one together, and then we ended up buying quite a few flats. And realizing that, I can either go and replace the tile myself in the evening, but I can't do that and work and can't do everything. So I learned to employ a tiler and no electrician, and then start doing that. And that way sort of contributed and build up a little bit of assets while you were working. And this is part of a message to entrepreneurs. You may be working for a company, but you can start building your own dream while you're doing it in a small way, you know. Join with some other colleagues and start something small, probably your wife or your partner or whoever it is, and start baking cakes, making jam, and doing those type of things. So that was also, and then I said to myself, well, okay, how do I bring industry closer to academia? So I said to myself, well, I can go the bottom up, or I can try take it from the top down. So I said to myself, these industry leaders, they have all these MBAs, okay? I said to myself, well, I'm going to go and do an MBA. And actually got to the stage where I could write theory to be able to bring industry closer to academia. And that was one of my dreams, and I've done it. It's taken a lot of hard work, but the point is saying that you get a guy coming out of university and he doesn't understand the loading of a truck, and he doesn't understand the basics and the fundamental of fuel usage and everything that goes with it, and what's the cost and what's the selling and everything that goes with it. So I feel that we are getting to a stage where it's a collaboration, or people getting together to understand business in the business sense. And just, sorry, I'm talking too much here, but when I finally decided to leave the corporate world and go on my own, I just want to share with you what my biggest fear was. The university said to me, well, you know, we want you to do this thing, you must write an invoice. And I thought, yeah, I've got all this experience, but I've never written my own invoice. And how much do I charge? And that was one of my biggest fears. So what I'm saying to everyone out there, it's okay to have fears.
Absolutely.
Because one of my fears was, how do I value myself? How do I say, how much do I charge? People think it's easy. Oh, you just write an invoice. It was one of my biggest challenges. So to the entrepreneurs out there, you know, you've got to charge for your service. And 9 times out of 10, you probably undercharge people because you're only too glad to have the work. So I just thought I'll just share that with you.
Michael, that is actually so true, because I think one of the biggest things we must remember is, I want to make a statement, is the way I see it, entrepreneurship is almost like the backbone of the economy. Because what's that saying? If you always do the same thing in the same way, you're always going to get the same outcome. So it takes entrepreneurs, people with new ideas, guts to do something and lead. And the thing is, we undervalue ourselves. And Christina, I actually want to talk to you about, if we look at the bigger theme of women in business in South Africa, you know, we're both women, me and you, and we know our different roles than those of men. But it's not necessarily less, it just looks different. And you are in business, you are doing this like a Jack Russell. How do you see the landscape of entrepreneurship for women specifically in South Africa?
Mia, that is a difficult question, because I think there's a right and there's sort of a wrong answer. We have numerous women entrepreneurs in South Africa and in Africa. But I don't think that our stories are being told. So people are not aware of who they are and what they do. Plus, come on, I'm a mom and I'm a female. And so I think what I'm doing day to day is natural, and that the person next to me is doing the same thing and her neighbor is doing the same thing. I don't think that there's enough of an awareness in terms of what real entrepreneurship is, and when I can be seen as an entrepreneur, and when I'm just like a mom or a provider. There's a lot of women out there with amazing ideas, and maybe I'm stereotyping here, but from a gender point of view, it's also a question about, you know, women, we maybe we need to be on the background a bit more. Maybe we can't be like the team gonna go woohoo unless someone tells you this is what you can do. This is this is what your strength is. This is why we believe in you. And then it's like, wow, and then they are unstoppable. So maybe, and as I said, this is purely a generalization. but maybe women just need a bit more of a push to say you can do it, because men grow up with, yes, you're the best and you're the provider and you have to make money. So whenever something happens, like, oh, wow, men, instead of, wow, women.
Yeah, we can also do it.
I think what's important as well, just to add to Christine, Mia, is that, you know, the whole topic is higher education. And in our previous session, we were discussing ethics, we were discussing governance, we were discussing values, and the importance of education at large. But education starts at home.
It does.
It's the children, and a son and his mother, you know, thinking back to my own life and my mother, it's where the education started. So the importance of education and laying the right foundation with our children is how we develop future generations. You know, we're celebrating AJ as a millennial, sitting here today, and there's a reason why I chose him to be part of this discussion, is because the amount of unicorns and decacorns, these are young people. These are not great people like myself and you, Michael. The millennials are the people shaking up the world and coming up with the latest. And AJ's 30 years old and chief executive officer of a private equity company. But he has a passion for entrepreneurship. And it's important for us as the older, you know, we're playing in the second half of the game already, you and myself, but it's important for us to lay the foundation with the younger millennials, and then to lay the foundation again with their children to say ethics, values, integrity matters. We celebrated Martin Kaskas in our previous discussion as a leadership person who doesn't have a rags to riches story, but an unbelievable rags to wisdom. And it's important for us to understand that our biggest asset we can pass on to the next generation is wisdom.
If I might add to that, and I think coupled with wisdom is mentorship. That we need that mentorship role model to sort of grow, and I think that is what is amazing within the South African context. Is doesn't matter where you look, there's always somebody that is willing to say, I can put up my hand and I can sort of teach you, because as we've all now said, that entrepreneurship is not an academic thing, and it's not something that you can learn in a book. And it's great that you took it and you made it practical. But you still need guidance from someone going forward to say, these are the potholes, these are the life lessons. Like you said, listen to the great people. And that is what is important.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, you know, but what's extremely important in the higher education side, and what we experience, having all these discussions earlier today with the professors and heading up business schools and yourself, there are still students studying, leaving university with a degree that have a sense of entitlement. It's the biggest mistake you can make. AJ himself sitting here today, who employs a lot of people, does not have a degree, but employs people with degrees. So it's important for us to also communicate that entrepreneurship spirit into students, to let them understand the fact that you have a degree does not guarantee you a future. To the contrary, people are now being employed, and there's a new buzzword, and that's called emotional intelligence. It's not just about IQ anymore. The world has become a little village itself. We were talking about, you know, there's an African saying that says, it takes a village to raise a child, but who raises the village? We've become a global village. We've got things like LinkedIn today, and we communicate on WhatsApp, and the world has become such a small place. But now emotional intelligence sets in. Are we teaching emotional intelligence to our students?
So, just to chat to you a bit back about what you're talking about, and something that sprang to mind, Christine, is very important. Is you've got to go down and pray, because one of the challenges, and this is what I'm saying, is you don't have to be a young. You can be old and young. So one of the challenges that I got maybe about a year ago is, how do I launch a global organization? And I can tell you, I got down and prayed because I had no idea. But through networks and through people that you know, and this is what I'm saying is, there's such a great, calamities disguised opportunity. Okay, there are such great opportunities out there, because now maybe someone's been retrenched. Okay, and they've got someone young in the family. So take an old recipe and start making your own chutney. Start making sandwiches and sell them. Get back to the little street shop that you got to. Don't be shy, because you can do it. And your first 10 rand will turn to 100 rand quite quickly. You may not get to R1 million on your first deal, but that brings family together. I think COVID caused that. We had to start baking bread together. So why? I mean, the bread is absolutely tasteless in the supermarkets. It's like mine. I don't know. Sorry, I know I come from the supermarkets, but if you make homemade bread and you make little breads and you start selling them in the neighborhood and you start doing that and you start creating these little activities, that's how easy it is. We used to, when there wasn't, we made our own stuff. Yes. And all of a sudden we've just become so used to it.
When did that stop?
This is my point.
Hey, we must go back to it.
But that's what I'm talking about. And there you are generating a little job and a little, if we've got 1 million small little businesses, one-man businesses. And if just each of those one-man business can employ one person, then we've got 1 million jobs that have been created. Yeah. So maybe we must think about, do we have to tax everyone so hard and give those guys a break that employ under 2 people and say to them, you don't have to follow these laws. Let's make a little law easier for that to encourage someone to employ one person. Sorry, it's just me going off.
And we've definitely got the talent to do that. And AJ, I just want to hear from you. When we look at, obviously not everything is always perfect and not all the conditions are always amazing. There are challenges and there are, like struggle blocks we've got to get over. But according to you, what makes a South African a wonderful entrepreneur? If we look at the South African context, what we've got to deal with. I say this with a smile because it sometimes feel like, bring the hits. We'll take the hits. What makes us such good entrepreneurs?
That's a difficult question, but I think with our economy and the 60 million people we have in the country, of which only 15 million middle class members can support the country, and the lack of proper governing structures and the support from government and things that's not working in the public sector, which the private sector has to jump in. I think in any emerging market globally, if there's problems to solve, there's opportunities and money to make. And because of the South African mindset we are not going to give up. So we will create what we need. And I think it's not just like that in South Africa. In a lot of the emerging markets globally, including India, other African countries, Indonesia, all of those places, they go through the same thing. Why do we have to escape our countries and migrate to the Western countries or other countries of economic wealth so that we can go and search opportunities for our families. It's not needed. We can stay in our own countries and create our own opportunities and economies. We as South Africans in Africa in a whole has very rich mineral resources, very vast majority of land available. And with fire capital and with everything that we want to achieve and our focuses is very much in those impact industries. So how do we become the food basket of the world in Africa?
That's
Because
big.
we've got the land.
Yeah.
How do we become the mass energy storage solution provider for the world? Because we've got the minerals. So there's so many opportunities in our country, and I think because of our resilience of as being South African and growing up in this environment of you have to make it work yourself, I think that creates the spark of innovation, and that is where the opportunity lies in our entrepreneurs, and it's getting them funded, and rightfully so. What Michael just mentioned is getting one extra employee in every SMME gives all of those other guys jobs. And there's some practical, very practical knowledge that is missing in our education system, which I wish I had the school of life. So just understanding the basic things like having a budget and financial management and all of the stuff you don't necessarily learn in school or even in higher education. Some of my friends that have studied 2 and 3 degrees only started working two years ago, and they still come to us for advice on how do they start and run and operate their own businesses, because they haven't been taught that. So how do we teach those practical knowledge in the entrepreneurial space to give them access to education on how to run successful businesses? So exactly what the World Business Angel Investment Forum stands for is that financial inclusivity and marrying smart money with smart entrepreneurs. And I think from our side in a whole, as South Africa and leadership in higher education, and Philip's role as a senator in the WBAF and myself as an international partner, we have a very, very important task, and that is to get entrepreneurs to become bankable.
There we go.
So how do we take entrepreneurs, teach them so that they can become bankable projects and bankable entrepreneurs with proper structures and governance structures, and they get to learn the ways of working with other people's money, because an angel investor wants a return.
Yes.
And it's all about that exit eventually. So they are more than willing to assist and for all of that dry powder to be deployed within the South African economy and globally. But they still want to see their return. Sometimes it's donations and grants and non-profit organizations, and they just want to give back. But we are living in a capital world, and all of these entrepreneurs need to learn how to work with other people's money. And the biggest challenge for myself as a young entrepreneur was, how do we go from self-employed, one-man business to business owner? And that's the bridge.
There's a difference in that, hey? There's a major difference, right?
Very much so, and that's where the people, the EQ, that's where the EQ comes in that Philip talks about. You now all of a sudden have to manage people. You have to understand and put yourself in their shoes. You need to have empathy for their situations, and you need to be able to relate with that and create opportunity, economic opportunity within that environment for all. And to take that leap from being 100% self-employed where you can't go away from your business for 3 months and come back and it makes more money. You need to be there every single day. From one boss being employed to 100 bosses, which is your client. Your phone rings off the hook. And you now all of a sudden have no time for yourself. You don't have time off, and you have to, because you want, your client becomes your boss. And going from there to becoming a business owner, and that's the scale up part of going from a startup to a scale up. That needs bridging finance, because it's the chicken before the egg. You need the clients to make more money so that you can employ staff, but you need the staff in order to service the more clients.
Yes.
So what do you do first? And that is the funding part of accelerated growth in the scale up, that we need to access and make the access to funding to entrepreneurs in South Africa easier.
I think what's also important, you know, and especially for our international viewers, looking at Africa holistically, Michael, and it to me is absolutely flabbergasted. The world is willing to throw money at Africa the moment there's a disaster, the moment that there's an outflux of immigrants due to war, due to instability. Millions, 30 million people, currently immigrants, and the world's picking up the tab. And a lot of that tab could have been avoided if the world realized that all that Africa is asking for is funding. We don't want to live overseas. We're talking about celebrating Africa, celebrating South Africa. South Africa has a lot of talent. Ask Elon Musk where he was born. In the same
our hometown.
In our hometown where we're sitting. Ask Rolof Botha, who today heads up Sequoia Capital in Silicon Valley. Ask him where he was born. In our hometown. So there's a lot of talent in Africa. There's a lot of talent in South Africa. But our youth seem to think that the grass is greener on the other side. South Africa hosts the most US dollar value millionaires in Africa, in all 55 countries. We're the richest country of them all in terms of high net worth individuals. And if you ask any one of those people, super wealthy people, why are you staying in South Africa? Because we love it. They've got houses all over the world, but home is still Africa. To bring back into context and what AJ says about angel investment and empowering people and making a difference where it counts, like the small businesses where Christine has a lot of experience with. It starts off with the international people, with people, angel investors giving someone a chance, giving them opportunity. Why are you willing to spend billions accommodating them in your country as immigrants, but you are not willing to help fund their startups and keep them where they want to be? So I think that's part of our challenge, and it's an educational process, and that's our responsibility as senators in the WBAF and also as international partners, is to say.
Philip, sorry, but can I just add, from a community development point of view, I agree 100%, and I just want to add something is, can all of those funders and donations please just ask Africa first what they want and not decide on our behalf what we want, because we have those entrepreneurs with the skills that know what is needed within Africa and within South Africa. We don't always need someone from outside to come and tell us what we need. Please give us the money and we will double it for you.
Agreed.
But
but we must also be willing to learn.
Absolutely, 100%.
I just used the example of our global chairman, to bringing up again Baybashal Tuntas, who's a dynamite, was part of, headed up the London Stock Exchange Group, part of that, celebrated his own book called the Altuntas Compass Theory, and off the bus into a supercar, a Turkish Dragon's Den. He's an entrepreneur through and through. Can I learn from him? He's been exposed to so much more than I have. So we live in a world that we've just discussed became a global village. And through networking, we have the opportunity to learn and to learn fast. And we should take lessons from celebrated people that have that experience as well. And not just be set in our ways to say it's our way or the highway. You know, I've studied a couple of hundreds of books because I have a passion for autobiographies and learning, you know, always looking for that get-rich-quick recipe, and I never found it. I read all the books, you know, from Donald Trump's books to, I coincidentally know Robert Kiyosaki. I've had the privilege of meeting them, and I've met the Trump sons. Always looking for that book with that secret recipe, you know. And if it's Simon Sinek's Why, or if it's Richard Branson's The Story of Virgin, or Warren Buffett's success, I ultimately realized one thing, and it took me years to find: there's only one rule in business. Only one. And that's the man with the gold makes the rules. So if we want their gold, we have to play by their rules. And if somebody wants our gold, they play by our rules. And that's business. And South Africa is willing to do that.
Absolutely. Michael, I want to ask you, if you look back at your journey and the path you took, what are the things that helped put you on your path? Some words of wisdom. I mean, what was there that pushed you in the right directions? But what lacked? What could have been more? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Just share some words of wisdom with us.
Okay. So, well, and this is just me, we were dealing with quite a lot of international students, and they were coming through, and we were at Massmart at the time, giving a lecture, and they were walking around the warehouse, and someone said to me, I just want to ask you, how are you so supercharged all the time? And I said to him, well, do you really want to know? And they said, yes. And I said, well, I get up in the morning and I thank the Lord for another day. And then I enjoy it to my utmost.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that's my answer. And if you're alive another day, help someone, create an environment where people can talk to you. There's no foolish idea. Absolutely. It doesn't matter. It can start small. I mean, Bill Gates started in his garage. I mean, come on, where did these guys? And even the likes of, you know, if you've got old computers in your house, there's some guy in the township that'll make that computer work. There's a whole industry of electronics that just get chucked away, which people can start. I mean, I look at these guys that repair cell phones and, you know, the green aspect involved with that. There are really thousands and thousands of opportunities. And I think what's great about this conversation is that in education, the guy comes out, he's got his degree. We need to have someone to say, how do you write an invoice?
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
And show you in basic terms, how do you stand up and talk to people and ask for the money, or how to sell your idea,
Yes.
you know, and support them with 100 rand, you know, because you can buy 3 loaves of bread, some polonies, and you can make a few sandwiches. Turn that 100 rand into 150 rand. And we don't have to all talk about millions. And richness is
It's relative.
We are rich
Yes.
when we've got a plate of food,
Yes.
a roof over our head,
Yes.
and a family that loves
Yeah.
us.
And healthy.
And you're healthy.
Yeah. And
And-
I must say, if I can add to that, you know, that one, the golden rule of business you mentioned, I think for me, one of the biggest things is just pitch up, you know, be there.
Show up.
Exactly. Be there when you say you're going to be there, because I want to mention again that position we undervalue entrepreneurs. They undervalue themselves because you don't know the skills, you don't know the business behind business, you don't know the lingo. But luckily, and AJ, here I want to, because I know that's what you are doing when it comes to reaching or just speaking to the entrepreneur in South Africa, in Africa. I mean, some common tricks or tips you've picked up along the line, along the journey. What are some of the golden nuggets that helped you to put you on your journey?
I think it starts off with the realization that you don't know everything, and having to surround yourself with very smart people. Always say that if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
There we go.
And another thing is that we have one mouth and two ears. And I experience this quite a lot. In the last 5 years, we've managed to service 3,000 entrepreneurs through our business. And they tend to not necessarily listen. They are very quick to think out the answer before you even finish the question. And they need to learn to listen better and more, so that they can be sponges and take in the knowledge that they can find from the environment around them. And that is something I had to learn. And I was privileged to be invited to a business breakfast this week, and the topic was, when is enough enough? And I think entrepreneurs or youth or young business owners see the social media platforms and they look at these wonderful lives that's being posted on social media.
But it's a fake life.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
So, and they see the guys driving their Lamborghinis and big houses and all of the stuff that they want, and they have this thriving ambition in them to want to achieve that. And I think with that, entrepreneurs need to find their purpose early in their lives, because when you're working for a purpose and not for money and for wealth, and your perception of success, because how do you define success really? And you find that purpose, then there's no enough. Then there's never enough is enough. And basic statistics, like with 8 billion people in the world, and 46% of them not having access to proper sanitation, and only 30% of the world uses toilet paper. So what does the other 70% do? So and people don't have access to food, fresh water. They don't have accommodation. So if you find your purpose of what it is that you're really working towards, we can't solve those problems in our lifetime. So you will wake up every day, thank the Lord for another day, and fully live that day to make a difference. Because we will have to do that until the day we lay down our heads and we are no longer there, for next generations to carry on. And that is what's the beauty of a purpose.
AJ, and gentlemen and lady, we have run out of time. And I know we can spend hours more talking about this. I really want to thank you for your time and just for taking the lead and doing what you're doing. We've all got our role to play, right?
Yes, we do. And On behalf of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, I'd also like to thank our guests and esteemed speakers. Mia, you're a well-known celebrity in South Africa and a television host. And thank you very much for being our moderator today. And to the rest of the world out there, if you really want value for money, taking into consideration simple things like an exchange rate, 20-1, you get value for money in South Africa. There's a host of opportunities, and it is the right time for you to have a serious look at this country and what Africa has to offer. Thank you.